What's going
Hi.
on, man? I'm a big fan of your content. I just had a question regarding the Big Bang. Do you think that the Big Bang was the start of everything, or was it more just the expansion?
Yeah, the Big Bang is there are different models of the Big Bang, right? So when you say the Big Bang, there isn't just one Big Bang. There are various models that scientists proposed. None of them, however, suggest that it was a beginning of the universe, and that's where everything started. Remember, when you invoke the word "start," that's arbitrary. Where you start the timer, that's arbitrary. The Big Bang is not the start of anything, it's the end of our understanding of the universe. So that's how far we can see. Now, there could be something beyond the Big Bang. There could be time beyond the Big Bang and space beyond it that we just don't have access to. And in that sense, the universe could be older than the Big Bang. It could be infinitely old. And however, on the other end of this is the sense that yes, the Big Bang may be the beginning in the sense that time itself began. Um, Scientists don't have there's no consensus about this. We just don't know yet. We don't have enough insight. Um, However, I would suggest that given the trend in science, the fact that every time we look through telescopes, we see more and more than we would have expected, I submit that there's probably more out there than just our little Big Bang. I suspect there's many more different things that we would call universes. Um, and that's just a suspicion I have, but we don't know.
Right, yeah. No, that was well said. Just because I've heard, just from different viewpoints that either the universe is eternal and it just always has been, or the Big Bang was the start, but I've never actually heard your point where the idea that, there's multiple Big Bangs and one of those is what caused our universe and other universes. And yeah, that was pretty much the only
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
I feel like you answered it pretty
we could be
well.
living in an ocean, right? We could be living in an ocean of universes, right? We could be living in a larger landscape of universes where they come about very easily. I mean, if we actually look at quantum mechanics, you find that universes come very easily. In fact, that's like the norm. Um,
Right.
and there would be hypothetically infinitely many more other universes out there, each coming into existence all the time and perhaps decaying and inflating and decaying again and over. It could be way bigger out there than what we can see, and that's exciting.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And the answer you gave is actually, pretty cool to think about. Because obviously that could be going on in real time, like different universes being created from
Yeah,
various big bangs as we speak.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
There could be big bangs happening right in front of us. We just don't see them because they're outside of our plane of viewing, or their plane of view, or they're outside of our sight. They're in different dimensions. They're in other parts of the multiverse that we just don't have access to. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah. Well, like I said, man, I dig your content and enjoy watching your lives. And also, man, I think I'm gonna get that book you've been promoting.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Take care.
Bye. Yeah. You know, science is so interesting, and I'm so. It bothers me sometimes that people aren't as interested in science as I am. It bothers me because of how amazing the universe is, how amazing things it is to learn things. People take it for granted.
House is the perfect place to start at.
Oh, I gotta kill the volume on that. Hola. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. I have a question. So, do we know that plants, to say it plainly, don't have feelings?
Yes, we're very confident that plants don't have feelings. The reason why is because they don't have brains, they don't
Okay.
have pain receptors, they're called nociceptors, they don't have neurons, they have no hint or sign of any kind of neural network that would enable them to have the ability for sentience as we do. So they don't have the tools required to be sentient. Now, some people will say, well, plants scream or they send signals. Well, so does my phone send signals. It doesn't make it sentient. Of course, there is electrochemistry happening in plants. Of course, that's how life operates. However, you cannot equate electrochemistry or the very light action potentials in plants. You cannot equate that to sentience. Sentience requires higher neural processing through certain larger structures in the brain, like the amygdala. That's what is required for sentience. And plants don't have any of that. And the signaling in plants is so infrequent. It is so much not like ours that you can't attribute it to sentience because it's so not like ours. And it's also the signaling in plants is because of osmoregulatory processes, which means that those signaling in plants is because of water distribution. Plants want to distribute water throughout their body, and signaling those action potentials that go through their stems and through their bodies allow them to do that. But those signals are not going to a brain. They're not going to a neuron. They're not doing any of that. So that's why the plants cannot be sentient.
Right. So we can see what we consider or call distress, but that's just us equating it with how we respond to distress. Like literally.
It's a bad word to use, yes. Plants don't actually feel distress. It's just us trying to personify things to make it easier for us to understand. But yes, plants do get damaged. Plants do get damaged, and they do send out signals when damaged. But those signals are only for, like I said, water distribution processes, not for pain. I mean, it wouldn't make sense if plants had pain. What are they going to do if they feel pain? Run away? No, you can't do that. There's nothing that pain would do, evolutionarily speaking, to a plant that would benefit it. It makes no sense for plants to have pain.
Right.
It makes all the sense for us to have pain because we evolved to run away from predators, run away from painful situations. That makes sense, way more sense.
Well, I respect your intelligence, bro. I have another question. Only because I've heard this and I've never even researched it. I should. So what is it when people say fish don't have feelings or can't feel pain? Is this true?
Well, there's very little there's very little data in terms of understanding sentience in other animals. So very little data on this in general. However, from the very few studies we have, there is some evidence that they do feel pain. And there's clear evidence that fish have brains. They have nervous systems just like we.
Yeah.
And they do respond to stressful situations very similarly to how we do. So there is some evidence that fish feel pain. And but there's no evidence of plants having pain.
I appreciate that, man. I respect you, man. That's all I had. I had those two questions to throw at you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi, what's your question?
What are you going to do when God comes back and they're going to want to sit down and have a word with you in person?
I will ask him, why does he not take care of the children in Gaza? Why does he not help people who are starving, who need help? Why doesn't God get off his ass and help people who need it?
He's going to tell you that those people are still working up to become the level of God, and those people have to suffer to be here.
Wow. So some people can just some people were meant to suffer. This is what you're saying?
That's like the human level, and God is above that level,
Some people
and they're here
were
to help
meant to
you.
go through gratuitous, unnecessary, extreme levels of suffering. And some of us can have great lives and be rich and billionaires and not go through any suffering. But some of us, God created to suffer. That sounds like a very maniacal God.
No, well, everybody can return to peace in the end, but yeah, there people can come here to suffer.
People come here to suffer. Do you seriously believe that? I don't believe that. I don't believe anybody would want to suffer or come here to suffer. And if that's the
They
case,
don't
there's no evidence of that in my eyes.
they don't have an awareness of God. So when God comes back, he can help bring people to his level, if they respect him and he likes them.
Wow. So God is like a king. He's like a Roman emperor, like a emperor from the Roman times. I like this person because he bows down to me. He obeys my commands. I don't like this person. Let him be a jester. Let him be a slave. Are you serious? That sounds like a
Think
very
about
egotistical monster.
there's just one person with the ultimate
How about this?
perspective.
I'll say this. If I was God, I wouldn't care how much you believe in me or obey me. I would look at what you've done in your life versus what you had access to. I would look at what you had, the tools you had, and what you did with those tools. That's how I would judge you. I would never go, oh, did this person pray to me every night? No. Burn him. That's, to me, what a crazy, ancient barbarian would do, not a loving God.
Okay, I mean I can see that, but what if the people didn't do much? They didn't have much, and they didn't do much with their lives, but they're still not that interesting for God to want to hang out with. So why would?
I still wouldn't punish those people. I would perhaps
Well,
I would perhaps help them to use tools to do better in their lives. I would never harm anybody. I would aid them.
well, let's say you don't harm them, but you send them, you let them naturally pass away, rather than the ones that you bring with you to God. They don't have to repeat lifetimes where they don't remember anything. So you bring them to God's level, and they remember you.
Well, that sounds ridiculous. Again, I don't see a reason why in the first place there would be a punishment for any of this. Secondly, there's no evidence of anything you're saying. So I'm just gonna say, where's your evidence? If not, then go away.
God wouldn't give you the evidence.
Okay, so then I have no reason to care about this being. It doesn't. If it wants a relationship with me so badly, why wouldn't it just give evidence of its existence? I mean, how can you have a relationship with somebody if you don't know they even exist?
Because you need to have a real lifetime where you didn't know anything, so you could be evaluated. Where the evidence wasn't there to see how you act.
Yeah.
Because
Imagine if I had a child and I abandoned it, and that child has no knowledge of my existence. And then when it's old and about to die, the child, I come back into his life and said, "Did you believe in me, child?" Then they're like, "No, I didn't know you were there." Well, go to hell, burn, right? That is insane, right? That's insanity to me.
yeah.
So that's why I think analogously, your version of reality is distorted, demented, and sick. Okay?
I don't think so. Okay.
Well, continue reading your book of fables, and maybe you'll.
Look, Mike. I wasn't trying to offend you last time. I'm genuinely trying to have a talk. All right. My bad.
Yeah. What's your question?
Look, you say you don't believe in a God, but you believe in a Big Bang?
Do you know what the Big Bang is?
Yeah.
What is it?
What? No. That's your. All right. It's a bunch of matter, and it expanded and created what you call life, right? Yeah.
No. That sounds like Power Rangers.
So life isn't made out of cells, atoms. Okay.
The Big Bang has nothing to do
Matter.
with life. It has to do with space and time itself stretching. Matter is just part of the universe that's stretching, and we're kind of being tagged along with it. But the evolution of life, the evolution of the Earth, and all this stuff, this is well defined in physics and science, and there were a cascade of processes that led to our existence the way we are today. But the point is that science explains a fuck ton of shit that explains our existence very well. Theism, or belief in God, explains almost nothing about our existence. I mean, it explains nothing. Oh,
Okay.
God did it. Well, then it doesn't explain how, where, why.
Correct.
None of that's answered. But in science, we have tons of answers, and they're all verifiable and falsifiable and testable, and they work, and they give us more answers. They're fruitful. When it comes to religion, none of it's fruitful, none of it's falsifiable. It's all just story.
Yeah. So, but where I was trying to get at, I'm sorry for not explaining the Big Bang correctly, but what I was trying to get at is that I've heard the Big Bang was started by a Jewish physicist. So, your Big Bang came from somebody who believed in God.
I agree that there are many great scientific discoveries that came from people who believed in God. However, you are, for some reason, tethering their belief in God as somehow a reason why they discovered it. No. It might have been a motivator, but it was not the reason why they discovered the things. They used the tools of science, separate from religion. So although there were religious people who invented many things in science and discovered many things in science and mathematics, they weren't using the Bible to do it. They were using telescopes and all different kinds of devices and tools
Fair
that were
point.
scientific. They never used the Bible to discover things about the external world.
Right, but every time you talk to an atheist, they all have the same answer. It all leads up to they believe nothing came from nothing, or something came from
You're
nothing.
talking to TikTokers, maybe.
So where do you
You
believe
dive
life
into
came
the
from?
evidence, if you dive into the literature, you'll find that atheists simply just don't believe in a God because
So-
of a lack of evidence for it.
Right, so how do you believe life is made?
Great question. How was life made? Life is amazing. The answer is in science, chemistry, biochemistry in particular. We know that the stuff you're made of, the molecules you're made of, amino acids, they form in space. They form in the earth. In the atmosphere, they form. And there's a great experiment on this called the Miller-Urey experiment, which has produced tons of amino acids in the lab, in a lab setting that replicates nature. And we know this. We at least know that the building blocks of life are naturally produced. And if that's the case, if we have the foundations of life through nature, why couldn't we get the rest of it through nature? And we actually have done great work on this. Biology, we have a whole field of it now, right? Evolutionary biology, showing us how you go from a simple thing to a more complicated thing over time. That's evolution. And that's something that is profoundly powerful.
Every single one of your answers is nothing but science. But if you define science, it says having knowledge of any kind, which means it's doing nothing but explaining what you see.
Well, not just what we see with our eyes, but what we see in any empirical sense. In other words, anything I can measure, anything I can test, anything I can falsify with my senses. I don't have to see it with my eyes, right? If I poke a beehive and I hear buzzing bzzz, in the beehive, well, I know that I can infer based on some data, some auditory data, that there are bees in there. I don't have to see the bees. I can just hear them. And that's evidence of their existence.
Okay, so
You can't
can
do
you
that you cannot do that with a God or religion.
right now I was gonna say, can you see the atoms or cells that you're talking about?
We can see atoms. First of all, physically speaking, we have equations that demonstrate. There's mathematical equations that also show that atoms must exist. But in terms of empirically seeing the atom, it's possible today with certain types of microscopes. But yeah, we don't have to see them with our eyes to know they exist. There are other ways to infer it through science. That's the beauty of the science.
Okay, so if evolution is real, how come we never seen apes transfer to us or even similar?
We are apes. We are still apes today.
Correct, but I think a little different. So I'm asking you, how come we never witnessed these apes evolve to us or even similar?
Well, when you think of evolution, you don't think of it like Power Rangers or Pokemon, where Charmander turns into Charizard with a Firestone. That's not evolution, right? We're talking about incremental changes over generations. We're talking about populations developing a certain gene that gets transmitted over time. And it takes years, decades, generations for that gene to branch out and to be adopted against the entire species. So again, it's not like a day-by-day thing. It's a slow, incremental, generational process that is demonstrated by the fossil record. We can see the past in the fossil record. We can see in our DNA. We can see genetic changes in our DNA. There's marks in our DNA we can see and find that signify chromosomal fusions or deletions, insertions, parts of our DNA that have changed because of evolution. So there's plenty of evidence for evolution.
All right, I like how you explain shit, but let me ask like two more things and then I'm gonna hop off. First, I need to ask the first question to continue the second one. For science, does that mean you could talk about the planet too?
The planet?
Yeah, the Earth.
What do you mean? Yeah, we have
Like,
a whole field of science.
okay,
Geology.
so let me ask this question. If you could see stars from Earth, how come we don't see stars in Earth pictures? The Earth is flat, nigga. I'm going.
Okay. So first of all, with the right camera, you can see stars from a camera around the Earth. But more importantly, in most cameras, you have to remember that their exposure isn't the best. And sometimes the light from the sun is too powerful for us to see light, the very dim light points in the night sky. And that's the point. That's why we don't see stars all the time in pictures. It depends on the camera you're using. And now if you're using a very powerful camera who can stabilize those exposures, then you can find stars. You can look at those stars as very dim points. So yeah, you're just mistaken and ill-informed. Wish more people could be as educated as you. I know. But that's why I'm here. So hopefully some people are learning as I talk and as I inspire others to do learning as well, because learning is fun. Learning is a hell of, it should be fun for me. Everybody should be learning. You got to be made of wood to not want to learn about the world around you, this amazing world. We often say it's amazing, but act that way. Act as if it's amazing. If you really think this world's amazing, oh my God, God made it, then act it. Learn about it. Thrive in it. Do something about it. Don't just sit there and say, well, it's amazing. God. Do something. Do something good. Use your science. Use your knowledge to help other people. To be an activist. Do something great. So yeah, there's a deep inside of me, and this has always been inside of me, but it's only strengthened since I've left religion and became vegan. But all these things have changed me. But there's a deep sense of me that just loves life. I just love learning because I love life. It's just something about existence makes me go, wow, we're here, we're alive, we're breathing, I want to take advantage of every second I have to learn something, and hopefully I can use my knowledge to do great things. That's all, right? That's simple. DNA ribosomes actually disprove evolution mathematically. The chances they would both develop. That's not how you disprove evolution. First of all, evolution is observable. Okay. It is something that's undeniable. It's a fact of reality that we evolve. We can see it happening in lab experiments. Now, what you're talking about, I think, is abiogenesis. And you're saying, well, how can DNA and these ribosomes, how can they exist by chance together? Well, that's not a perfect steelman of what's happening here. The actual reality of the situation is that there were a cascade of processes that took place prior to DNA. And you're forgetting all the precursors to DNA, like RNA, and before that, very more simple nucleic acids, and before that, amyloids. You're forgetting all the sequences of events that have occurred before that were when you look at the full context, it's way easier to understand how you go incrementally to DNA from simpler things. Instead of the sense that, you go from 0 to a billion, that can't happen by chance. Of course, if you believe in stairs, but you don't believe that you walk upstairs, of course you're going to look and go, oh, that's impossible. How can you walk upstairs? How can you go from the first base step to the last step in 2 seconds? Well, of course, that doesn't happen in reality. It takes incremental steps to get to the top. So you're missing all those steps in between DNA and more simpler forms of it, nucleic acids. Yeah, you're taking the elevator. You're taking the elevator and going, where's all the steps? Well, you took the elevator. Are you pro-choice? Yes. How do you go from believing in God to being an atheist? Education. What if God exists? Which one? There's a billion different types of possible gods. We need trillions of years of evolution since Big Bang to get here. No, you actually don't need that much time. You actually don't need that much time for evolution to happen. Maybe only a few 100 million. Go on Jubilee. Maybe. I don't like debating that. Look, guys, I like debating certain topics. I don't like politics. I don't like all that stuff. I'm a science guy. I love science. I love that kind of discussion. I don't like talking about Trump and Kamala. I don't like any of that. You know? But I know it's important to talk about, but I just don't like to do it. Are you talking about you're talking about my other alternative profiles? Well, those are satirical. They're satire. They're not real. Do you think life exists somewhere else in the universe? Probably, given how freaking big it is, right? Given how many stars there are in the universe. And not just the number of stars and planets, but also the types of planets and how easy the building blocks of life can form. We are finding rocky planets almost everywhere, and we're also finding water everywhere. There's water on Mars, liquid water underground. It's deep underground, but there's still liquid water on Mars. There's liquid water on Enceladus. There's liquid water in the moons of Saturn and Jupiter. So water is common. Also, we've also found almost every time we find water, we find amino acids and organic compounds, which could lead to life. So that's just in our own solar system. And given the types of planets that could exist and the number of them, and how easy it is for the building blocks of life to form, Well, I think the universe is teeming with all kinds of life forms. And there's so many different types of chemical environments that could exist. And there's an entire range of them, that can differ from ours. Some exotic. Some will be extremely exotic from our perspective. Some will be less, or at least more simple than our life. There might be some life out there that is still in its baby stages, right? Still in its very basic amyloid phase, or RNA phase, right? But there's all potential life forms that can exist in all different shapes and sizes, and that's incredible to think about. Any specific future telescopes that you're excited for? Yeah, there's a few exoplanet telescopes coming out. You have the Nancy Roman telescope, which is going to be a bit bigger and see. It's going to be tailored for exoplanet discovery or in dark matter discovery. That's exciting. We also have another telescope. I forgot its name. I think it's from ESA, coming in 2026 or 2077, where they're specifically looking for exoplanets, and this telescope is going to be able to see city lights on planets. We'll actually be able to block out the starlight and see the light from the planet, coming from the planet itself. That's incredible. That in a few years we'll have that technology, and that's going to open up the door for a lot of possible life out there. And I believe within our lifetimes we will discover life. It's not going to be absolute certainty. We're not going to come home and we're not going to bring aliens home, but we're going to be 90% certain, maybe 70% certain, 80% certain, maybe 90% certain that there's life there. And this might even be the case for, moons in our own solar system. So a lot of exciting discoveries to be had. Would I eat a cricket or a beetle? No. Y'all are weird, man. Okay. Do you think they will cure cancer and heart disease? Well, talking about cures for cancer is something that's misinformed. There is no cure to cancer because it's a genetic disease. You can fix cancer, you can prevent it, you can fix it, but curing it with a vaccine is not going to happen. You can't just say, "Oh, cancer will never develop." That's not how it works. It's a genetic disorder, genetic malfunction. However, in a few years, cancer vaccines, in fact, some cancer vaccines are becoming available soon. You're going to be able to take a vaccine that in which the substance inside the vaccine pinpoints cancer cells and attacks them and prevents them from forming again. So prevention is the cure in the case of cancer. Heart disease as well. Heart disease is another disease like that. And it'll attack perhaps cholesterol and all kinds of things that cause atherosclerosis, right? It'll attack those types of molecules in your body and prevent heart disease too. So there's a lot of possibilities with science. How do you feel about modifying CRISPR with AI? Look, I love the idea that you can change your genes and become a better being for it, a better, more healthy being for it. That's great. I think we should use technology for the betterment of all people. What are dark stars? I don't know exactly, but I think they're made of dark matter. I think they're stars made of dark matter. And in other words, they present a gravitational presence, and perhaps even a magnetic field or something, right? Perhaps they have some kind of a star-like behavior, but they're dark. We can't see them visually, and that's an exciting thing to think may exist. I didn't hurt any animals. I just bought beef from the store. Every time you buy it, you're hurting other animals. Thoughts on white holes? I just thought of a funny your mom joke, but no, I don't know. They're hypothetical. They don't really exist. We don't know for sure, but I think they're interesting. I think they're really interesting. I want them to exist, but I don't know for sure. What's the great attractor? Your mom. The great attractor seems to be a region of the universe where there's a lot of stuff, right? A lot of dense, perhaps galaxies, stars, things like that. A very large object or region that contains lots of stuff. That's all. Remember, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies out there, right? Not just stars, galaxies. And galaxies have interacted. They can interact with each other in certain ways through these galactic filaments. They can actually move through these tubes in the universe that connect all the galaxies together in some way. So these objects can be light years across. Do you want to have kids? Yeah, I think so. Why do some people believe in God and some others just can't? Well, some of it has to do with your brain type. Some of us have larger amygdalas, which lead to more fear-based thinking. They're not as accepting of new knowledge. Those kind of people are more, they want to follow more of the status quo. They want to follow what's protecting them. They want to follow what's safe. And those type of people tend to be more religious and conservative. And some people have larger interior ungulates cortex, which is responsible for more like conflict, understanding of conflict, understanding of new data, conflicting with other data, right? So some people have different brain types that would predispose them to be thinking certain ways. But remember, the brain is plastic. The brain can change over time, and some parts of the brain can shrink or grow if you use them, just like your muscles. So that's why people change over time. They go through different stages of thoughts. They don't know what to believe sometimes, or they learn and they become different and they grow that side of the brain that's more rational. So they're more skeptical, right? They're more unwilling to just believe because it sounds good. They want to know. They want more data. So, look, it's all tied to how we think. How does time dilation work? It's extremely hard to explain without diagrams. But essentially, if you understand that space and time warps and is curved, but at the same time you understand that time travels at a constant speed, the speed of light. Time doesn't change. It's the same constant. And because of this fact, because of these two facts together, the fact that time warps and the fact that the speed of light is the same, the time it takes, or the distance between 2 points, one one set of points that don't see curvature and one set of points that do see curvature, the two sets of points that see the curvature are going to have to take more time for that light to travel through the curved surface. So that's why near a black hole, it takes it's like time slowing down in a way, versus somebody who doesn't see curved space-time. But that's gravitational time dilation. It's way harder to visualize the other type of time dilation that's related to velocity. When you move faster through space, you're also slowing down time because you're traveling through more space, versus somebody who's static, but you're still traveling the same speed, right? So it's very, very interesting to visualize and understand. But I have a video about it on my channel, my YouTube channel. When you see a bus moving past you and you see someone on the bus running, what would it look like? What? When you see a bus moving past you and you see somebody on the bus running, what would it look like? They'd be moving faster. You just add the speeds together, or you add the bus speed plus the person moving in the bus speed, and you add them together, and that's how fast they would seem to you. However, light doesn't change, right? No matter where you are, no matter what reference frame you are, the speed of light is the same. And that's why time dilation happens, right? That fact makes time dilation happen. It's very, 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 very unintuitive, but true. It's a real thing. It really happens. It's something we can really measure. We can measure time slow down the faster you move. In fact, every time you go on a plane, you're slowing down time. I mean, it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second, but you're slowing down time. That's so unintuitive, right? It's so unintuitive that if I were to run versus somebody standing still, I'm slowing down time for myself. So that's really unintuitive. But it's a real thing. And it's all relative, right? There's no time clock. There's no clock of the universe that says this is what everybody's time is. Everybody's time is different, depending on how fast you're moving, what direction you're moving in, what gravitational influence you're experiencing. There are many different factors that tell you what time is, what your time is going to be. Okay. Evolution does not care what you eat. As long as you're getting the nutrients you need, you're going to be fine. And veganism is not going to hinder our evolution. It's not how this works. It's not how that works. We evolve. We adapt. How do I ground morality without God? You look around and you go, wait a minute, what am I doing? How am I affecting this person? It's the easiest thing in the world. You just go, wait, if I punch you in the face, will it hurt you? Do you like that? No. It's very, very simple. The better question is, how do you ground morality with God? How do you ground morality with religion? That's impossible to me. That's impossible. How does DNA store information? Look, DNA is a molecule that is always doing something. It's always, when it interacts with other molecules, it wants to unzip itself, it wants to change, it wants to replicate. And when it goes through this process, the information is stored through the configuration of molecules that makes up the DNA. And that configuration, that system of molecules, it wants to maintain itself while it replicates. And because of that, and because it maintains itself chemically, that's why we say that there's a transmission of information. Because that molecular system is maintained through the process. And that's why information is stored. And this applies to almost every medium of information. It's a system of particulates in which a configuration maintains itself through time. That's how memories work. That's how we store our memories. Configurations of neurons that light up in our brains. They tell us what memories you have, and every time you smell something, those same neurons are being fired up in your brain, and that's why you have that memory. Very interesting. But that's a very simple way of saying it. I mean, it's way more complicated than that, but I'm just giving you a very simple way to understand. I don't see how going vegan is ethically better. Meat did not help our brains evolve. That's nonsense. It wasn't meat that helped our brains evolve. Our ancestors ate lots of plants. That's a confused understanding of it. But more importantly, saying, "Oh, I don't see how going vegan is ethically better." How don't you see it when you know that killing dogs is wrong? You know that abusing a dog is wrong. How is it such a stretch to say that abusing a pig is wrong? It's not a stretch. You just don't want to change. And that's evidenced by your second statement, which, "Oh, but definitely the way we produce meat could be better." So you obviously understand. You obviously understand you're doing something wrong. You just don't want to change because you're too lazy. That's just be honest with yourself. You just don't want to take the time and effort to change. That's all. Right? And everybody else does it around you. It's normalized to consume animal products. So you think, "Oh yeah, I'll just get away with this and let it slide by doing what everybody else is doing." Just face it. You have succumbed to the normalization that society has done to consuming and killing and abusing animals. That's your fault. So don't come up to my live and say, "Oh, well, I think it could be better, but I don't see why you should be vegan." That is something so dishonest, so inconsiderate, so disingenuous to say. Do you think Musk will make us a multiplanetary species? I hope not. I hope it's not Musk. I think he's gone crazy. But I think, yes, eventually we will be a multiplanetary species. I think that eventually we will live on Mars and the moon and perhaps other moons out there, but that's probably not going to be us humans. It's probably going to be robotics. Look, our bodies are flimsy. Our bodies suck without gravity. We're very, very tethered to the earth. It's very hard to take us off of this planet. There's a lot of consequences. But when it comes to robots, machine life, machine beings, well, there's no problem, right, in space. So they're the ones I think who are going to be the future descendants that go to these other planets, not humans. but they will be like us. They will be very much like us. Why do religious people get mad so easily? Well, there are many reasons why, but the biggest reason why people get angry when you say that God isn't real is because people have associated God with something personal to their own life, right? They take it personally to extreme levels, right? So much, they take it so personally that they think that without their belief in God, everything else will collapse, right? They're clinging on this belief so much, and they have tied themselves to it emotionally so much that even the thought of being an atheist is so confusing to them, so foreign, so alien, that they're willing to, that it brings up this urge for them to be angry, and it brings out this urge to fight it. And that's normal. That's just fear talking. But it's just to me ignorant to do that. It's fear. It's not the correct way to do it. CRISPR can help the space travel genetically alter humans with radiation resistant, but look at how much work that is, and look at how much that has to be maintained, and sure, that's feasible. I'm not saying that's impossible for humans to be in space, but it just makes more sense. If you're going to go to space, you want numbers, you want scalability, right? You want to be able to scale up. And for that to happen, you need a lot of beings, and I don't see population of people being enough to really do that if you're going to really colonize other planets. Humans might visit and might travel to other planets for fun, but who is really going to be doing the living there are the robots. I don't know. It's hard to tell the future, but no, there is no. It's not a fact that meat grew the brain. There's no evidence of that. If meat grows the brain, then why aren't lions super smart? Why don't lions have large brains per body size? Right? It doesn't. That's not how it works. Meat does nothing to the brain. In fact, meat in our brains specifically makes our brains worse. It clogs up our arteries. It leads to things like atherosclerosis and diabetes and cancers. It doesn't help us. It doesn't make us smarter. And the evidence of this is, look at my lives. Look at my lives on TikTok. I mean, take a look at the non-vegans who come up here. That, to me, is evidence that meat does not grow your brain. Okay. Any plans for another official debate? As bad faith as Parker was, I enjoyed the format. Yeah, I do want to do more formal debates. I do. But they're just a lot of work, and I just don't. I'm frankly a bit lazy to do that format all the time, And also, there's a lack of people who want to debate me formally. I mean, it's not like I get requests every day. Look, it takes courage to do a formal debate. I mean, I have the courage, but other people don't. I want to go vegan or vegetarian, but I don't have discipline. Learn, grow your knowledge in that. How do you define your version of consciousness? Experience. To me, consciousness is just physical. It's a physical thing. It's entirely physical, material. And to me, consciousness is what the brain It's what, not just the brain, but also the body. It's just the sum total of all the electrochemistry going on in the body, the bioelectricity. In other words, the conjunction of biology and electricity. There's a connection between those two things. Biological systems can operate with a sense of in like a network that's in which the medium is electricity. So to me, consciousness is just the more complicated version of this networking happening in our biology. And it's, people say, well, okay, that explains the origin of consciousness, but it doesn't explain why we experience in the first place. How do we experience the color red, right? What is the experience, right? That cannot be explained physically. I disagree. I think that it can be explained physically. I think that we are we are the most immediate manifestation of these chemical reactions in our bodies. We are playing out this bioelectricity. And so we often take away, we take ourselves out of the picture and say, well, what's the experience? But we are the experience, right? We are the experience. We are the medium of the experience. And we're all those things. So oftentimes we want to like think in a third person and go, well, what's the experience? How do we experience redness or blueness? But I think we are the most immediate manifestations of those experiences through our biology. But again, this is not known. This is not a fact. I'm just saying my suspicions about it. Carnivores do not have larger brains. Some of the largest brain beings, like gorillas, apes, have the largest brains per body size. Now, elephants as well. Elephants have very large brains. Dolphins, although they are omnivorous, they consume some plant-based material. I mean, I don't think there's a trend, but the point is you don't have to be a meat eater to have a strong brain or to have a big brain. How can I eat more meat? Ask your mom. She'll tell you. She's an expert. Are most babies born with 20/20 vision? Hell no. Babies are not typically born with good vision. Is there more suffering than good in the world? I don't know. That's a hard question. I don't think so. I think there's more good than evil. But what is the evolutionary advantage of consciousness? Well, are you kidding me? Consciousness helps you find food better. It helps you see better. It helps you see predators better. It helps you find food better, right? It helps you have sex better and reproduction better. It helps you find mates better. There's all kinds of advantages of having consciousness. And by the way, eyes are connected to the brain, so they probably likely co-evolved, right? The eyesight and consciousness co-evolved. Same with ears, right? All these organs are connected to the brain. So it's obvious that these things co-evolved because they help us survive better in terms of hearing predators and seeing predators and finding food and all these things. And the fact that we understand this is incredible. Like the fact that we have the story of how we evolved, that is incredible on its own. And that's just something I wish everybody had the understanding of. I wish everybody had my perspective. And that's what I'm just screaming to do, right? My entire TikTok presence. That's why I wrote a book. I want people to see this perspective, not just have it. I don't want people to have it, but I want people to understand a little bit, have a taste of it, because it's quite incredible to be knowledgeable in things, and it helps you absorb more from existence. It helps you absorb more, and what you absorb becomes more potent in terms of affecting you in all ways, emotionally, mentally. How did photoreceptor cells evolve? Well, photoreceptor cells are very similar to ordinary cells, right? It's just certain proteins it has. There's just certain developments of proteins. And that's really all. By the way, almost every cell of your body is identical, except for a few proteins that change, and that's why we have different organs and different, physiological features. And it's quite incredible to understand. It's another amazing thing. Yeah, it would make the world a better place. I mean, having a scientific perspective allows you to see things and people in a different way, in a more accepting way, in a more pure way, where people aren't. You don't. In society, we're taught that people are certain ways. These people, but all that kind of goes away when you step back a second and you recognize that we're just all apes. We're all just apes walking around, right, with clothes on. When you have that kind of perspective, right, things change for you. Things change about how you see people. That the fact that we're all family, that we all share a common ancestor. The fact that skin color isn't something that you choose or something that makes you worse or better. Skin color is just a certain pigmentation of our skin cells that some people have developed. That's just that type of understanding, right? Changes how you see people, the planet. The pale blue dawn is another great example of this. I mean, we have a look up perspective, right? Often we look up all the time, and we don't really see things from the space perspective, where we're all unified, where the Earth is just one thing. We often see borders on Earth from our perspective. We see walls, we see borders, we see boundaries to things, but we don't see that in space. We don't see that. We see one planet, and that changes how you see the planet, right? So all these are just different perspectives of the world. If you're doing a 2v2 debate against religious philosophers, who would you want as a partner? I don't know. Hard question. Nobody from TikTok, I don't think, and there's nobody on TikTok that I think is a good would be a good fit. I don't know. Do you believe AI can never be truly conscious? I think so. But not in the way we think. Not in the way we are conscious, though, right? There are different degrees of consciousness, different mediums of consciousness. So we couldn't fathom what it would be like to be conscious from their perspective. But I can't think of reasons why there wouldn't be another type of consciousness like ours, but just different. But yeah, that's a very deep, profound question. Very hard to answer. But I suspect there would be the ability to really kind of replicate it digitally. Because after all, I mean, what makes consciousness happen are electrons flowing through molecules, flowing through synapses, or cytoplasm, whatever the case may be. The point is that foundationally speaking, there's nothing special or unique about us that we can't replicate in nature. What is my oldest memory? I actually do have very old memories. In fact, I remember very vaguely. I remember being a baby and touching my father's nose. He was, near me, and I remember touching his nose and touching his face. I remember feeling his beard. He had just shaved, and I remember feeling that. And I do kind of remember being in a little, baby chair. So that is one of the oldest memories I have, I think. But I like that memory. I'm glad I have it. Could we make a ship that has gravity in space? Yes, you can make a, this in Interstellar they're called Cooper stations. And what you're doing is you're basically generating a centripetal force that causes a gravity-like effect, right? If you spin a cylinder fast enough, perhaps like once every minute, you might be able to generate enough force that from the inside of the cylinder, it feels like there's something pulling you down or pushing you up. And that would be what gravity is like. And then it's possible to do so, but you need a very large thing, and you need to move it very quickly. And that's probably not going to be feasible given current technology, of course, but perhaps in the future we might be able to do so, but not right now. For now, we need Earth gravity, or we're screwed. A lot of bad effects if you don't have Earth gravity. Some effects are unforeseen, maybe unforeseen. Are forgotten memories erased from your brain? Good question. I would say yes. There's a point at which if you don't exercise those neurons, they don't have that same ability to generate that memory again. So in order to keep memories, you have to continuously remember those things. You have to. It's like a muscle. It's like muscle, right? You have to exercise your muscle, and that will retain your memory. So, yeah. But yeah, it is sad that sometimes you do forget memories, and especially if you have, brain damage or things like that, you will completely forget memories if those neurons are damaged. It happens. It happens. And that's sad. What is the most complicated thing in life? Maybe love. If your parents are atheist and vegan, well, they're not. Well, yeah, they're not atheists, but they're very liberal in terms of what they believe. but they loosely believe in religion and spirituality. Am I smarter than Blitz? Well, smartness is a very ill-defined thing. We don't know. How do you measure smartness? I mean, there's many different categories. There's many different ways you can be smart. There's many different. How do you measure, like the average? How do you possibly measure that? It's not possible. But in terms of sheer scientific knowledge, he's way smarter than me. I'll say that. How does religious morals and ethics not preach harmony and empathy within society? Well, religion. There's a myriad of religions out there that could be harmful. Some religions are not as harmful as others. Some are kind, some are nice, some are not. What time is it? It's not too bad. Oh, Mike, I want to buy your book, but signed. Okay, send me a DM. Send me a DM and I can ship it out. But it's not going to be free, by the way. It's I have to buy the book and then ship it out to you. So it's not going to be free, but a lot of people think I'll give it to them for free. I wish I could, but unfortunately it costs money to get those books and ship it out to you. What makes my brain intelligent? Well, I learn. I take the time to learn things. I have, for almost my entire life, studied stuff. I have learned. I have read things. I have listened to things. I have dived into science labs. I've talked to professors. I've talked to scientists. I've talked to professionals. When you immerse yourself in knowledge, of course you're going to be smarter. Of course you're going to know things. Obviously. And the great part about this is that you can exercise your brain. You can exercise your brain. You can become smarter. Anybody can become smart. It's not hard. You just got to immerse yourself into the knowledge. But more importantly, it's not what actually makes it easier to know things than to learn things is to learn the scientific method. Oftentimes, people don't know where to look for knowledge. They ask me all the time, where do you go? Where do you learn all this stuff? When you understand what science means, you'll better be able to understand how to find new science. You'll know what sources are good or bad. So what I would do is take science courses, talk to scientists, go to a science lab, do science, do it, right? Do it. And that's how you learn. Okay. Oh, what makes the brain so intelligent? I thought you said my brain. Well, what makes our brains intelligent is the fact that we have 100 billion neurons and trillions of synapses. Synapses are the connections between our neurons. Our neurons can store information, but the synapses are the mediums of which this information can travel through. And that makes it powerful. Okay, our brains are powerful things because of how much thought activity is happening, right? Every second you're thinking. Their brain performs billions of calculations per second. Billions. So think of how many things are happening in the brain. That's why we're so intelligent. There's specific parts of the brain, specific structures that do certain tasks and think certain thoughts. They talk to each other. There is a complete network, a vast network of synapses and neurons in the brain, and that's what makes us smart. And not just the size. It's not the size. Like, for example, elephants have larger brains than us. Elephants have larger brains than we do. They, in fact, have more neurons than we do. They have like 200 billion neurons. But they don't have as much folding. They don't have as many structures as complex as ours. They don't have as many synapses. There's as many connections that are being tightened, that are occurring. They don't have that. That is what makes us intelligent. Do I believe there could be billions of planets with billions of humans like us? No. I suspect that because of how many things had to happen for us to be here in this particular way as human beings. I mean, if you look at history, if you look at how long it took for us to be here, if we take a look at how many things had to happen for us to be here in this way, the sheer number of those things is it's a very long list of things that had happened, right? So to replicate this would be very improbable. I would suspect way larger than 1 in a billion. Okay, perhaps 1 in a trillion, or 1 in 10 trillion, or 1 in 20 trillion. And given the number of possible Earth-like planets and possible galaxies, there wouldn't be billions and billions of us. There might be dozens. There might be dozens of us that are almost identical to humans, right? But again, that's in the entire universe. I don't know that. I'm just speculating here, but I would say that we humans are rare because of how many damn things had to happen for us to be here. However, that does not mean that life is rare. I think life is very common in the universe. All kinds of microbes, simple formed life. But complicated life as that's probably hard to come by because of how many things had to happen. If, the asteroid, if the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs was off by just a little bit, just a few hundred feet, we wouldn't be here. We would not have arisen if the dinosaurs survived. So remember that the amount of things that had to happen in a specific way they did is extremely rare. So yeah, that's a good, it's another reason to cherish humanity and cherish other people, because you can travel billion, trillion light years and you'll never find another one like your family. You'll never find another Earth like ours out there. We are unique, very unique.